The best comedy of the year. Critics are calling it sensational. Everything is about to change.
Podcasting
Will never be the same. Hang on to your seats. This will make for one epic
podcast. Welcome back, 716 Sports Podcast. How's it going, fellers?
Doing just fine, you know. It's a nice rainy Buffalo day.
Hate this weather. Fall is not elite. Don't at me.
But it's good to be in here talking some sports, even if the local teams are. Okay.
Let's do that podcast.
Let's do that podcast thing.
Oh, Bills lose 19-zip to the Green Bay Packers.
22 to zip.
22-zip?
Yep.
So I stopped watching. My apologies.
That was perfect because that was genuine. That totally was not fake, and that was perfect.
I don't blame you either because that game was not interesting from the end of the first quarter. That you messaged the group chat at one point is this 14-0 game feels like it's 40-0, and it really did. It felt like the Bills were down 8 scores at halftime, and there was no hope, even though they were 2 scores out of coming back into the ball.
I mean, even at 0-0, it didn't feel like they were in the game. At no point during the game did they ever feel like they were actually going to compete.
That 3 and out in 18 seconds. I think it was their second drive of the game. So, you know, I didn't see who won the coin toss, but the Bills got the ball first.
Green Bay won and deferred.
Okay, I was going to say, either way, like maybe they won and McDermott's like, let's get the kid out there. And I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. They 3 and out, get the ball back. And I believe that was the drive. That was an 18-second 3 and out drive.
It was like, the second drive, 3 incompletions.
Yeah. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't understand how the lack of competence. Like, I'm watching other teams that are not good, that are playing against good teams, at least get a first down. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
The Bills were the worst football team that suited up on Sunday in all facets. Because at least there was a couple of teams that had really tough losses, but at least those teams showed a pulse at some point. Buffalo never felt like they showed a pulse. They were never in that game. They never competed. They never pushed Green Bay. They just kind of sat back, and as Rodgers said after the game, he couldn't believe they only won by 22. It was incredible that that team had the ball for as long as it did, ran basically whatever it wanted to, and Buffalo still managed to hang around a little bit. So credit, I guess, where credit's due to points to the secondary, to the defense, because that game could have easily been the Baltimore game all over again.
You know how we talked about the Minnesota game, that the penalty on the first drive, the roughing the passer, kind of set the tone, and it turned into a 75-yard scoring drive. And I may be wrong, but didn't Benjamin drop a first down pass on the first drive? And instead of getting a first down, and I'm not Mr. Momentum, I don't believe in it entirely, but when you stumble out of the gate, just ask Minnesota. When you stumble out of the gate, it's a whole different game.
Calvin Benjamin dropped a pass.
Never, no. Didn't
it was
see that
the only
coming.
one all season.
There was that time when the Packers guy got that personal foul call for taking his helmet off. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is our Gettysburg, boys. This is like last week.
Yep.
It didn't happen.
I couldn't believe that Martinez got that
near
penalty
pick
at
six.
all.
They had to call it.
No, they didn't. He got punched in the face and took his helmet off.
He should have cried about it.
Like his helmet torn off of his face.
He should man up. He actually
I just
took
think
it
it
off.
should have been
took it off
offsetting.
himself.
He took it off himself.
Yeah. That's an automatic 15-yard penalty.
And punching a guy in the face is an automatic ejection.
He
So
shouldn't get mad about it.
But
50 is 50.
But when the
there.
refs missed, the refs missed Dawkins throwing the punch.
I know. I'm just saying it's the same. It's the literal same. It's beside the point. It's the same official missed one thing and saw the other thing that happened right after it.
Well, it's kind of obvious when a guy's walking around with no helmet on the field.
The defense wasn't awful. As Aaron Rodgers said, he can't believe they didn't win by more. They did get to him. They did get a couple fumbles. They did get some turnovers. They had a pick six in their hands that they dropped. Their secondary is less well-known than last year. I mean, you have guys that were waived 3 weeks ago by New England that
Lewis
are
is
playing
starting,
as
and he was
starters.
A practice squad,
And not only did he play, he was a positive factor. Mm-hmm. You know, that their defense was not abysmal, and if there's something to be said for that, they played okay. It could have been much nastier.
So we've got you going?
No, you were going to say the same thing.
So we've got a lot of thoughts on this week's game. We got to share a lot of the same thoughts as our friend Pat Moran. Let's get to our segment with Pat, the PAT with Pat Moran. Maybe we should probably cancel the segment this week because there was no touchdowns, so there's no actual PATs.
This is the kickoff with Pat Moran.
Yes. This is the desperately wanted score with Pat Moran.
What's up, guys? It's Patrick Moran from the Moran Analytics Podcast here, teaming up with my buddies from the 716 Sports Podcast to bring in the PAT with Pat. Every week during the Buffalo Bills season, I'm popping on here, giving you a quick take or thought the day after a Buffalo Bills game. And I'll tell you what, today's about realism and just having a realistic expectation of what the Buffalo Bills offense is supposed to be. Some people, maybe myself to a certain extent, got fooled last week against Minnesota. That was just a straight up trap game. The Vikings came out, they sleptwalked through the game, and the Bills offense looked good. But you know what? What we saw in Green Bay and what we've seen the first 2 weeks of the season, that's who this Buffalo offense is. They just lack talent all across the board. Josh Allen should not be playing football right now. He should be learning. He got pressed into action because Nate Peterman flat out was not good enough. You can make a strong case that maybe the Bills should not have traded A.J. McCarron, that if he was still in Buffalo, he'd probably be starting right now with Josh Allen on the sidelines learning. But of course, hindsight's always 20/20. Josh Allen's simply not ready right now. The kid's a rookie. He's a raw rookie. And to make matters worse, he pretty much has no real talent around him. The offensive line's not giving him any help, obviously. That's a big problem. And by the way, it's time to include Deion Dawkins among the problem. Up until this point, it's been, well, the four guys on the line suck and they have Deion Dawkins and that's it. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Go watch the film because Deion Dawkins has not been much better than any of the other guys. At wide receiver, I mean, it goes without saying. Kelvin Benjamin is a fraud. Zay Jones is useless. If you want to look at his 4 catches for 40 yards on the stat sheet, be my guest. But you know what? He was nowhere to be found until it was garbage time. Foster and McLeod, those are guys who should probably be on a practice squad, not on an NFL field right now. Charles Clay at tight end. He has talent, but the guy can't stay on the field for 4 quarters without limping off at some point. LaShawn McCoy's probably the best player on the team, but they can't find a way to utilize him. At this point, I don't even know why they keep him. Maybe they should start looking in the trade market, see if they can get something for him. All in all, it's just an extremely shitty offense. And sure, they might have 1 or 2 games throughout the season where they're going to look really good. But for the most part, what you saw in Green Bay is what you're going to get.
Pretty honest words there from the old Pat Moran.
Did not pull those punches. He makes a lot of good points, though. You look at this offense and the playmakers, and there's nothing there. It's McCoy had 5 carries yesterday? 5 carries for 24 yards.
24, yep.
Chris Ivory had more carries than LaShawn by 1, right?
I mean, yeah. I wonder how much of that is McCoy still maybe not being 100% versus them not using it. But he was not getting used a ton before he got hurt.
He's got 21 touches on the year.
Yeah. And the other hard part is when you're constantly playing from behind, you run the ball less. But the theory then is that McCoy is a great receiving back, and he's not having any part of that receiving game either.
3 for 13.
So he's been basically non-existent. Ivory is basically just a bulldozer. You hand him the ball and hope he runs north-south. And then Murphy wasn't even active for the game on Sunday, so the guy you feel is most similar skill set-wise to your number 1 back wasn't playing. It's just, and then the receivers are a whole other disaster with Benjamin dropping passes, running bad routes, getting blown up while dropping a pass, which was a combination of terrifying and hilarious. I couldn't help but laugh a little bit as he dropped the ball as Clinton Dix ran through him and caught the ball for the interception. Zay Jones, as he mentioned, 4 for 40, but was nowhere until the 4th quarter. Clay is a non-factor. You have Foster and McLeod, who I don't think the Patriots would start right now. These guys are no-name 6th and 7th round rookie receivers who were available in the 6th and 7th round for a reason.
The one exception, and I believe I agree with everything that Pat said. It's a contention almost, is him saying that Allen should not be playing football right now.
He's right.
I understand that, but if the team is going to be his anyway, there's the narrative or the belief that maybe I kind of have that he's going to learn more being on the field, getting sacked, and making the bad throws? You mean to tell me that he didn't learn to never make a throw across his body to the middle of the field again?
I would love to believe it, but
would he have learned that on the sideline?
That's that gunslinger mentality, though. They brought him in because he's going to try to make that throw for better or worse.
But you want to talk about like blitzes and coverage and reading a defense and that kind of stuff,
which he can't do.
He's going to learn more though on the field than he would be on the sideline. And to me, whether it was McCarron or Peterman, they were strictly a placeholder. This was always going to be Allen's team, is my point. So how much different? What if we were going through these growing pains week 1 next year? Right? If you let's just forgive me for this tangent if it feels that way. If these growing pains were inevitable because he has a high ceiling, a lot of physical talent, but needs to grow. What if in the offseason they go and get offensive line help, receiver help, and now all of a sudden Allen has 14 games under his belt? Does that not give him a chance to be more successful next year? I don't know. I'm being the advocate.
It probably depends on who he is and how the coaching staff handles his development. Certainly there's a lot to be said for actual live game action versus simulated drills versus watching McCarron versus preseason games, even which are like half speed or quarter speed games. But at this point, and I think what Pat means and what I would agree with is the only reason that Josh Allen is currently on the field for a team that coming into the game was 1-2 and still very active, like tied with New England in the standings. The only reason Josh Allen is starting is because they have no other options at all. And if they had McCarron here, McCarron would be starting. If Peterman wasn't terrible, Peterman would be starting.
I'd still want Peterman to start just because I feel like the games are going to be a tease this season with Allen in there. Teasing being better than they actually are. And 2, you run the risk of Allen getting killed either not reading a blitz or the offensive line failing to pick up a blitz.
I do agree with Steve in a sense about he's getting better by playing, but just behind this O-line just irks me. It's like he's gonna redevelop all the bad habits you're trying to get out of him, and you're seeing it now where he's like on somebody's instantly scrambling out of the pocket.
He's got happy feet already.
I don't think 100% of that is the offensive line, though, and that's not a popular opinion because they were so bad in the preseason.
Good, yeah.
But there were a couple plays where he was pressured yesterday immediately, and it wasn't because necessarily someone got blown by. It was because the Packers showed blitz. They showed 3 guys off to the left where there was only 2 guys or 1 guy blocking, and Allen looked at it, snapped the ball. He didn't move anyone. He didn't shift any protection. He didn't pull a running back in, didn't pull a tight end in, but he... If it's a case of there being more blitzers on the side than there being blockers, it's not my expectation that Deion Dawkins is going to hold off like Clay Matthews with his right hand and Blake Martinez with his left hand and somehow become an impenetrable force. Offensive line play is, to a degree, just knowing how to block what the quarterback is seeing. That's why these quarterbacks go to the line. They look and they survey the defense. They're like, okay, they're running this. They tell everyone what they're Mike. Right. That's why they're talking. They're not just out there pumping their own tires. Like look at all the football terms I know. While they stand there at the line. Allen does not yet know how to read what the defenses are showing him. He doesn't know that, and that's part of the learning process too. Like Steve mentioned. You hope that he picks it up. But at this point, I have a hard time saying that it's 100% the offensive line. Is it a great line? No. Could they be better? Absolutely. But he's not helping.
It's not even a good offensive line.
Great example is like whenever. So there are times where any team this year will bring 5 guys, and the 5th guy just unblocked. There's one play late in the game where the Bills brought 7 guys, and nobody got in the backfield.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the 5 linemen. It was probably also the tight end. It's a running back. It's a fullback. It's a numbers game to the point. And they're not absolved of everything. They're letting things happen.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying. It's just noticeable. There's no protection changing. The center can pick up with that shit too.
Yeah.
Like it's center's job also.
Well, our center also isn't.
That's
great.
Well, yeah.
That's part of the problem.
Which one? Neither.
This is a good example. It's a good example.
Yeah.
Like, you can see teams that know how to pick that shit up. And how many times this year have you seen them bring one extra guy and just unblocked? This play, Bills brought 7. Not a single guy got anywhere near Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is on one good leg and he can't move. Like you could watch him scrambling and it was like just like hobbling down the field, and no one and the reason that he's able to play like that is because he can look at that Bills defense and say, okay, I know which of these guys are coming, and he can buy himself enough time by shifting something that he can get a throw out. And yes, his targets are a lot better. They do a much better job getting open. There's a lot better speed. His line is better, so they can run the ball more. But just on a base pass protection level, he understands how to set everything up.
There's nothing new under the sun. Rodgers has seen everything before. So, whether it's a cover 2, whether it's cover 2 man, a cover 1, if they have, help with a zone over the middle and man coverage outside, he knows and he's going to pick it up right away. The difference is some teams know how to disguise what they're doing to make even the best quarterbacks think it's A when it's B. It's not that you're going to surprise him with a new letter in the alphabet. You're going to shock him when he thinks it's A and it's really B. And that's what the Bills seem to not be able to do. Or they just didn't do it well yesterday. Or maybe you can't do it to someone like Rodgers because he just doesn't care. But they lack creativity, on both sides of the ball to do things like work with what they have to get the best out of what they have instead of just like slamming their head into the wall trying to be something they're not.
Right. And you talk about lack of creativity. Even with how well that first half in Minnesota went last week, there was not creativity really on this team. The Bills have run, in my opinion, really one creative play all season. It was that fake screen that Allen threw the touchdown pass to Jason
That was
Vermont.
intentional. They set it up the 2 drives
and
before.
That was absolutely brilliant. It worked to perfection. Minnesota bought every single second of it. But outside of that, what were the other touchdowns in that game? You just had a quarterback diving over the pile on 4th and goal. You had a quarterback scramble left when Allen uses mobility, a broken play entirely. And then you had 2 just great individual pass rushes by Hughes and Murphy and to force 2 fumbles. Those aren't crazy scheme plays either. To this point, the Bills' defense and offense have not shown that they can out-scheme a team. And part of that may be that they don't have elite talent in a lot of positions, but a lot of it is, I don't know what else. And it's part of it's having a rookie quarterback on the offense and a rookie quarterback on the defense.
At what point do you think Dable realizes that his O-line is not good enough for his for receivers to have time to gain separation on mid-level routes, and the receivers aren't good enough to get separation on said routes? So he's got to start like really incorporating short route running concepts, just get the ball out and moving, and then find a way to get the ball to Shady.
So
Put him in the slot. Do something with the fucking guy. He's your best player. The game plan per Shady was get the ball to Shady. He got it 8 times.
I think that Dable's in a bit of a catch-22 right now. He's got Shady playing at probably 70%, and maybe he'll get more and more touches as he gets back to full speed. I don't think he's there right now. He's to the point where he can play, but I don't think he's really recovered. And I think he took one hit on one of those carries where a Green Bay player landed on him, and you didn't see him for about 10 minutes of game time after that. I think he was really feeling it. You've got a running back, your best player, not healthy. You've got a quarterback who doesn't yet know how to read defenses, whose best skill is throwing the ball 50 yards downfield. However, you have a bunch of receivers who can't run 50 yards downfield and can't get separation from defensive backs.
And when they do,
the ball is 15 yards over
or
their
they
head,
drop it,
or they drop it.
Yeah. So when you start running short route concepts,
and then all of your receivers, except for Benjamin, that round mound, are about 5'5" and 150 pounds, and they get pressed out of the game on anything short. And Clay can't run routes at this point. Like there's nothing. You can't scheme for players not having usable talents. It's tough for Dable out there.
no one's got anything to say about that.
It's tough. Like I don't want to be so.
When it comes to personnel, though, the reason that I'm not panicking, I've already said that in our group chat in all circles, I'm not even going to assess Allen until the end of next year, because this year is just a wash. It's going to be impossible to get a reading on how good he is unless he's able to, shoot the lights out with this lack of talent. But the thing that has me encouraged is I believe that Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and One Bills Drive, I believe, maybe I'm way off, I think they know what their deficiencies are. They aren't trying to say, maybe they're trying to say it, but they're not going to roll out the same team next year and say, no, we have enough talent. We're just going to, we just got to do better, run better plays and scheme better. I really do think with the amount of cap space that they are going to have, with the draft capital that they have, maybe they move some assets this season before the trade deadline, that they realize that they have deficiencies, and I think that they're going to address them. I don't think that they're going to be proud of the team they put together to the point where they say, no, Benjamin's our guy. He's super good. We're going to keep him. Maybe they will. Maybe I'm wrong because they've loved Carolina, players from Carolina. I think that they know that they have very real personnel issues, and I trust that they're going to address them this offseason.
They have a lot of personnel issues to address.
I would hope they do. And at this point, it's hard for them not to address one of them, because basically every position on the field except for wherever Trey White lines up and Jerry Hughes and probably Allen, there's an upgrade to be had out there somewhere in some way, shape, or form. So
I'm okay with Edmonds at middle linebacker, but he's still a rookie. But I'm okay with him moving forward.
Yeah, and there's other guys too. I don't want to get rid of Hyde and Poyer, for example. But
there's very few out of the 22 starters on Sunday that you can say they're
there's
even
no
satisfactory at their position.
There's
right
no
now.
position group that's untouchable. Even if there's a guy at that position, there's no position group where
Right.
you could say I'm content with what they have there.
You're short at minimum one corner. You're short on the whole offensive line. I mean,
Death on the defensive
Dawkins-
line, maybe death at linebacker. We'll see how I've liked what I've seen from Milano so far. So we'll see how this linebacker crew holds up as the season goes along. But
Dawkins' poor play both does and doesn't surprise me. I mean, one guy doesn't make the whole offensive line, but at the same time, he's showing that he's not the guy you're going to build the offensive line around, and you kind of want that out of a left tackle. You kind of want a franchise left tackle to protect Allen's blind side, and he's showing he's probably not it. I mean, he's not showing anything special. You can't really run behind. Well, you can't run behind the whole line, but you can't run behind Dawkins. You can't.
Who's playing left guard next to him? Is it Dukas?
Yes.
And I could be way off, but Dawkins looked okay last year. I'm wondering how much of that was incognito. That like maybe his approach was everything to my right is good because I got incognito and Wood next to me, and now he doesn't. And I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just wondering if he was a product of the guy next to him.
Probably. I'm thinking that's what it is. I'm thinking he may be a serviceable tackle in the league, but he's not going to be that stud left tackle that if you find somebody better that you say, I'm keeping Dawkins over this guy that I could bring in that's better.
Like they did to Cordy Glenn, or the opposite. They could do it again to him what they did to Cordy Glenn.
Right.
so I think this would be a good time for us to dial up William and get some predictions in for Week 5. So it's the Tennessee Titans coming into town for Week 5.
Who are they?
It's such.
Are they the team that beat Jacksonville 9-6? Are they
just
the team
beat
that won in
Philly.
overtime? Right. Are they a bad team with? Who are they?
They're a good defensive team and an offensive question mark, but as Mariota gets healthier, I think he looked good yesterday.
Thrust into action when Blaine Gabbert got hurt again.
And Mariota's far from 100%. They said on the broadcast, I was watching the end of the fourth and overtime of that game yesterday, that he's got like numbness in his throwing hand from that elbow injury, so he's certainly not like 100% in wanting to play at this point.
They dropped Rashard Matthews.
Rashard Matthews just basically pulled a midweek Vontae Davis. He just wanted out.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying wants the Bills to sign that guy, but he basically just pulled a variance of Devontae Davis. Think the Bills are going to bring that guy in?
I would imagine that they won't for a number of reasons.
He didn't want. He quit because he wasn't getting the ball, and the Bills don't like that kind. Well, this
He'll never. Yeah, that's.
this front office is not like that kind of player on the team.
He'll go to New England or some. I mean, if he's going to quit Tennessee for not getting the ball enough, he's not going to come to a team with a rookie quarterback and
Imagine he goes to New England and they have Josh Gordon and then Rashard Matthews. That's
Gordon
your two-
Matthews. Edelman will be back this week, and Hogan.
Talk about Tom Brady being reborn. Put another 4 years of those guys.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call Bill right live on the show.
Okay.
See if he answers.
God, I hope so.
I hope not.
One of these times, someone's not going to answer.
That's freaking loud, actually.
Yeah.
Bill.
Sorry for your ears, folks.
Hello.
Hey, William.
What's up, man?
You're live and on the air, baby.
Oh, yeah. What's going on, guys? How we doing tonight?
Yeah.
We're just doing that podcast.
Sweet. I'm not tonight, but that's okay.
Where are you?
But you are.
I am in a way. Well, actually, I was at a Cub Scout meeting with my kid, and it went so long that my intended purpose, which was to go to a fantasy hockey draft, I ended up just doing it at my house. So I'm just lying on the couch drinking a beer, waiting for this phone call. And now it's here, so my life is complete.
We were told you wanted to have a part of the show and make a prediction here, so we figured this would be a good time to do it.
Yeah. So I assume we're talking about the Titans and Bills professional football games happening later this coming week.
Yes, American football.
American football?
Yeah.
Football Americano for our Spanish-speaking friends.
Yes.
Yeah. So my prediction is, did you guys see the line? 3.5. Titans are favored right now. So it seems like a pretty competitive game. I was going through the old crystal ball, which I have several of because I'm rich and famous. And I came up with the conclusion that this game is going to end 15-2. The Titans are going to get a safety in the first quarter. Then they're going to kick a field goal, go up 5-0. They're going to then kick another field goal, 8-0. They're going to score a touchdown, which is, I believe, worth 6 points. So that puts us at 14. The Bills are going to block the extra point attempt, run it back for a safety.
Yes.
Yes, 14-2. And then for the first time ever, we're going to get a rouge. And I don't really know how that happens, but I've heard that that's something that our friends to the north, and for us in Buffalo, our friends to the west, are familiar with. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I don't know after that offensive performance how there's much expectations right now for what this team can perform, and the Titans have been a much better defensive team than Green Bay has been so far. So,
what about the home team narrative, though, Bill? I mean, there's got to be something to be said. If this game's in Tennessee, what's the spread? I know you're having fun and I'm being Mr. Serious. Forgive me for that, but I'm on that note of the offense. Do you think that being at home and Shady having another week to recover, that they might get something going?
I think it's possible. Honestly, I think Shady and Benjamin are broken. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but quick pop quiz. What number is higher right now in the season? Kelvin Benjamin receiving yards or Shady McCoy rushing yards? Don't peek.
Oof. Benjamin receiving yards?
Correct. Do you know what the spread is? It's like
Pretty close.
You told us the spread was 3.5.
93 yards
Yeah.
for Benjamin and 85 yards for McCoy.
Christ, that's
Now, obviously, McCoy contributes in other ways as well in the passing game, and I understand that. But to say after, and again, McCoy has been injured here, but also the point stands to have your supposed two best players on offense contribute less than 100 yards at their given positions. McCoy in 3 games and Benjamin in 4. Obviously, they've been injured and missing parts or full parts of that, but the point stands that the offense has been a complete train wreck. And, Steve, like you were asking, what's the line if this game's in Tennessee? I assume that the line is close to 10. It's probably 9. You figure you give, traditionally like 2.5, 3 points for the home field. So neutral site, this game's probably about 6 to 7 points, and then it's not like Nissan Stadium is this huge juggernaut of a home field, but it's still a home field. So I would think that the line would sneak up to around 9.5, 10. So to me, out of these 4 weeks so far, what game seems to be the outlier? I think it's pretty obvious it's the Minnesota game. I'm not saying that the defense didn't play poorly. I actually thought the defense, given the circumstances, played really well on Sunday. But the offensive line and the skill position players just could not hold up, and that was as brutal a loss as you'll see. Justin, I think you were saying, the lead was only 2 scores, and it felt like the game was. It felt like we were watching the Baltimore game again in terms of how little competitiveness it seemed to be showing by the Bills' offense. So I have my doubts, and until proven wrong and seeing that the defense can set him up and set Allen and the offense up on short fields again, I stand to reason that it's a reasonable guess to think that they're not going to be able to produce a whole lot.
all right. Well, if they actually lose this game 15-2, that'll be the single greatest score call of all time. You pick a scoreagami, so I respect the gutsiness in that.
Hey, this is a scoreagami house right here, I'll tell you. So, God willing, we'll get one. I mean, if you're going to lose with flair. Like that was their first loss that didn't feel like a fun loss because there wasn't anything to build on in the second half, and there wasn't a complete demolition of Nathan Peterman. So I would actually argue that so far, Sunday's game was the most depressing game that we've seen so far.
Well, we can only go up from here is what they tell me to read, so hopefully that's the case. Well,
and that's why we always give you the cue cards, because you're the best recruiter. So thank you for that.
I tried hard.
God bless you.
Thanks, Bill.
Have a good night, boys.
Bye-bye.
And that is the Bill Kenny segment here of this show. Bill,
I was really hoping the 15 points was 5 field goals, but that's much
That'd be
better.
too simple. I thought he was going to work a 1-point safety in there somewhere.
Just field goal, safety, field goal, safety, field goal, safety.
I would
That'd be
do it too.
amazing. That'd be way better.
Since we're on phone calls, we
Yeah, we-
spoke with Bud Bailey.
Yeah, Bud Bailey, a friend of mine covering the Bandits, but also a longtime Buffalo sports reporter and Buffalonian. And he actually, we're going to talk to him while he's in Green Bay. He was at the game, which is pretty cool. And he's going to give us some perspective on those Bills and those Sabres.
I forgot our predictions.
Oh,
And then we'll go to Bud.
all right. Bud can wait.
We'll go right to Bud. Jeff, prediction for this week's game.
Tennessee never seems to blow anyone out, so this game is going to be close, even though I think they're better. Give me Tennessee 13-10.
Michael?
Tennessee 21-10.
So because of what you said, the 13-10, I think the Bills pull it out 14-13. Fourth quarter, Tennessee struggles to score, but the Bills pull one out of their hat. Remember when Tyrod used his legs and actually got hurt bringing them back? I could see something like that happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't be completely shocked because I don't think the Tennessee offense is going to put up a whole lot. I
Yeah.
can see that.
I think if the Bills can hold Aaron Rodgers to what they did, they can do it to Titans offense. I think the score is going to be 15-3.
Oof.
Okay.
I'm going to one-up Bill.
Field goal fest.
No, there's going to be a touchdown and 2-point conversion.
Oh, okay.
Malarkey style 2-point. No, not Malarkey.
Marone.
fucking name?
Doug Marone.
Marone.
He said the sheet said
Marone.
go for 2. They're up 19 points. He says the sheet says go for 2.
They,
Love it.
they asked Bortles what he thought about the 2-point conversion playing, and he said, I don't know, man. I just work here.
Loved it. Loved it.
Like Bortles is the everyman quarterback.
That's what's going to happen. 15-3. I'm going to one-up Bill. Let's talk to Bud Bailey now.
Yep.
We're joined now by Bud Bailey, a friend of mine covering the Bandits for over 10 years now. That's where I've met Bud, and we've spent a lot of time talking about Buffalo sports over the years. And Bud finds himself in Green Bay right now, ironically, 2 days, a day after the Bills played in Green Bay. Bud, is there a connection between you being in Green Bay and the Bills having played there on Sunday?
Yeah, I unfortunately lost the game or watched the game here, and with some old high school buddies that came up as a group, and they were wearing a lot of Bills stuff, and I'm happy to report that the citizens of Green Bay were kind to them, and for the most part, and in their treatment during and after the game for supporting a team that got blanked 22-0, and it could have been a lot worse.
So we all watched it on TV. We didn't have the privilege of being at Lambeau. We'll use the word privilege lightly. So was it as bad as what we saw on TV?
Yeah, the Bills just, didn't do anything, and that was the problem. I didn't think the Packers looked particularly sharp, but they did enough to win. And a couple of things that I picked up on afterwards. One was that the Packers just never had a negative play. They never, they didn't have a 1st and 10 and lose 4 yards on a sweep or get sacked too often or whatever. They just were always moving forward a little bit at a time. And plus the fact the Bills just very rarely made a good play until maybe the last drive at garbage time. Just a play where somebody goes out on a 12-yard out pattern and Allen hits them for a catch and a first down. There was just very little of that. And, everybody knows the story of 6 or 7 sacks of Allen, and not many the yardage was about 3-1 in favor of Green Bay. So a rather dreary performance, and I know Green Bay's pretty good. It's hard to know how good, but certainly not a good sign for the Bills going forward from here.
Now, Aaron Rodgers said after the game that he couldn't believe that the Packers didn't put up 500 yards and 40 points against the Bills. And even though the game was close for a lot of the game, it really did feel like watching at home that the game was basically over from the first Green Bay touchdown. Was there any worry in the building at any point, or was it basically just the fans were watching and fairly confident that their team was well?
Yeah, I don't think there was much doubt. I think you're right on target on that. I never had the feeling that the Bills were going to threaten for this, and after last week where everything went right for Minnesota, this was just kind of like, okay, back to normal, and this is maybe where the Bills are as a team right now, that they're just not going to be able to play good teams and stay competitive unless 3 or 4 breaks go their way early and change the game right around. It was just kind of a blah feeling, as I said to somebody after the game, we had a really good football weekend until they started playing football.
That leads me to my next question, but I wrote a piece last week that got the Bills Mafia all up in arms, saying it's only one game. Allen had a good game. The Bills had one game, or had a good game, but it's only one. And, I had a feeling that the Bills of the first 2 weeks were more of the real team, and it might have been an anomaly last week. What was your feeling? I mean, not necessarily even as a fan, just your expectations going into Green Bay. I mean, what they did last week was real. They did beat another team handily. So,
yep.
Was there any form of expectation? Did you get what you expected, or did you think there would be maybe a bit more out of Buffalo? To be honest, for me, I didn't expect anything more than what they did. I am not surprised that they flatlined.
I thought they'd do something offensively, but they really just never showed much of a spark throughout the entire game. Kind of a Tiger Woods of the Ryder Cup sort of day, I guess, in that sense. They just so I was a little disappointed that they didn't put up more of a fight and just never seemed to really be able to do much. And, I look up in the first downs and they have 6 in the first half or whatever. And granted, we're not in Nathan Peterman territory with that, but it was still just a day where they just couldn't put any sort of drive together, and that's kind of discouraging. And I know it's part of the learning curve for Josh Allen, and he's going to have days like this, and he's gonna fall in love with his arm. You remember the interception where he was sprinting towards the right side, and he threw like 35 yards into the end zone across his body, and it was like, whoa, how many guys can make that throw? And as it turned out, it came up short and intercepted and snuffed out any last bit of momentum the Bills sort of had. So, rookies are going to do that, but it's always painful to watch from a home team, from the Buffalo team perspective, I guess.
What's your take on their absolute inability to get LaShawn McCoy the football? He's their only offensive player, and they just don't give him the ball nearly enough.
I would think that they've been behind a lot, and that takes away your running game, of course, and B, the offensive line figured to be a problem when the season started because it lost its 2 best members for one reason or another in the offseason with Wood and Incognito. And they might not have the horses up front to get him any yardage, And this is a guy who's extremely talented, as we all know, but nobody's going to be able to pick up major yardage without help from the offensive line. And I think you're seeing a pretty good demonstration of that. He just doesn't have a whole lot of space. A few runs he might have made 4 yards, where a decent running back got 1 or 2, but big deal. They still haven't been able to get much of a running game going throughout the season, really. And we're all kind of afraid that might happen because of the line, which surprised some people in the last couple of years, but this year it looks like the doomsayers were on target on that.
We keep hearing that receivers can't get open. They can't separate from the man-to-man coverage. They can't win a one-on-one battle. I haven't seen a game other than what we see on TV, and of course we don't see the scope of the field. Does that feel true to you? Do these receivers just struggle to get any distance between themselves and the DBs?
Yeah, I think we all figured that this group of wide receivers, Steve, was probably at the bottom of the league, and they just don't seem to be able to do much and to get open and make plays on any sort of consistent basis. And I guess again we might have seen this coming or whatever, and now Benjamin goes into concussion protocol after the awful hit he took on Sunday, and we'll have to see what happens with him. I haven't gotten any updates on him yet, but they just you get past the first couple guys in particular, and you just don't see anyone that's going to scare anybody, that's going to make a defense think twice about blitzing or whatever, and leaving one-on-one coverage back there, and that's a heck of an advantage for the defense to have.
So before we transition into hopefully happier news on the hockey side of things coming up here for Buffalo sports fans this week, how was it watching a game at Lambeau? I know you've traveled and covered games in many cities and many stadiums, but Lambeau is one of those vaunted destinations for sports fans. Yeah,
I had never really been there, and I thought Lambeau Field was maybe the best football experience in the National Football League. And Mark Gahn from the Buffalo News told me that was going to be the case. and it turned out to be exactly that. It's a odd building because the lower bowl, if you will, which dates back to 1957, seats maybe 60+ thousand, and it's got the benches as opposed to actual seats, and feels really old and authentic, but it is just surrounded by suite after suite after suite after club seating and special sections or whatever, and it's an enormous facility, and the atmosphere is just fabulous. They have a good-sized building they call Tailgate Village out by one of the parking lots, in which they have a band that starts playing at 8 in the morning, and everybody comes in and listens and eats and whatever before the game. And there's other places going around, other areas that are open, and the crowd gets in there about 7 or 8 in the morning for a noon game, and they're ready to enjoy themselves. And they played the beer barrel polka between the third and fourth quarter, for crying out loud. And every time the Packers scored, the Todd Rundgren song gets played, and I don't want to work, I want to bang the drum all day. And it seemed like 3/4 of the fans sung right along. And anytime there was a first down, the PA announcer would lead, "It's another Green Bay Packers," and he didn't have to say first down because everybody completed the sentence to it. So almost college-like in that sense. It's the Packers in the community are just amazing. Even just walking around the city this weekend, it seemed like more than half of the people had some sort of licensed Packers merchandise on. They just it's a really unique situation here because the town is just so small. It's like 130,000 people, and which I think is smaller than like Syracuse, or it's like if you put an NFL team in Albany, this would be what it was like. And it's amazing to watch in an action. And obviously people come from all over the state to see the game, and really all over the country. I guess the Packers have season ticket holders in all 50 states. That's to say everybody makes the trip every week, because it's not easy to get to Green Bay, as we discovered. But just great fun to see everyone in action, and they've really embraced the whole idea of Title Town and the Packer history involved. So it really feels authentic, and I would certainly urge anybody that can figure out a way to get here to come up for a game, because it's such a unique and fascinating experience. I'm going to write about this at some point for Buffalo Sports Page. I do a series on where's Bud Bailey at blankety blank, and I think this is very fertile territory for telling people what it's like.
Joined by Bud Bailey of the Buffalo Sports Page, retired from the Buffalo News, but still very active in the Buffalo sports scene. Bud, let's transition. I know some of these stories. First, we're going to transition over to the Sabres. We said we were going to have you on to preview the season because there's some excitement around Buffalo about that team. But give us a little bit of the backstory, because this is not your first time covering the Sabres. You returned to covering the Sabres in a more full-time capacity last year for the Buffalo Sports Page. But take us back to how you first began covering the Sabres.
Well, there's an interesting story that I could fill up the entire internet with, I think. But I started covering the team in my radio days in 1978 and went through 1986 and saw some mediocre teams that could never win a playoff series back then for the most part. And then in 86, I worked in public relations for the Sabres from 86 to 92. And then I got a job a little bit later on at the Buffalo News in 94. And what do? They put me on the Buffalo Sabres beats, which I stayed on until 2001, and then moved elsewhere and did a variety of other things. And I got done with retired from the Buffalo News, and Buffalo Sports Page came along and said, I would love to have you cover the Sabres and write a column after every home game. So I covered 38 of the 40 home games last year, which I believe is qualification for some sort of Congressional Medal of Honor, because watching 38 home games last year was a pretty dismal experience, and very little fun for almost anyone. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not paying to get in and all that, but it was just so joyless, and the players were not in a good mood, as you'd expect, and the media was just kind of running out of angles and sick and tired of seeing each other with the players in the interviews. And, well, what are you going to tell us about this loss that's different than anything else? So never good to cover a losing team, but last year was just a totally joyless, dreary experience.
You mentioned to me a little bit about the locker room and just how the feeling in there was just deflated even after a win, that with all your experiences around sports teams and the Sabres in particular, it felt different. Have you been around the team yet this year? Because there seems to be the narrative that it's changing, and we hear the catchphrases of culture change and different expectations. And if you haven't, do you suspect that they will have changed? And what are your thoughts going into this year after what you just described as a dismal year last year?
Yeah, I think that the best way to do that is go to practices and maybe even see road games. And obviously, I don't do that. I just go to the games because we really don't need that sort of coverage at Buffalo Sports Page. But it certainly was a group that got down pretty quickly when it realized it wasn't going anywhere. And I remember Jack Eichel coming in after a win, and someone in the media had asked to bring him in, and it was pretty obvious that the last thing last place he wanted to be was talking to the media at that particular moment, and he just kind of went through it in a flat, unemotional way. And that's not to pick on Jack, because at other times he had became quite an articulate spokesman for the team and where it should be, which is probably why he might be captain by Thursday night. But there was just a feeling that nothing was working, and they were just going to be underwater for the whole season, and what's the point? And we're just kind of playing out the string and seeing who might get traded at the trading deadline or after the season, and just kind of a poisonous atmosphere. And boy, it really came out in the locker room cleanout, which the guys came out and sounded like they were auditioning to line up with psychologists, because it was clearly a team that was just didn't know, got in a hole early and had no idea what to do, and couldn't figure out why, because confidence is just so important. These guys have some confidence, otherwise they wouldn't be at the professional level, but they were just stumped, and they knew whatever they were doing wasn't working, and everyone was just miserable as a result.
And now, obviously, a huge roster turnover. My friend Eric told me today that it looks like the only line without a new player on it as it would stand is the fourth line. And that's obviously, the lines aren't official, but just knowing that there is a total roster overhaul here. And obviously it's in the hopes that something is going to work, that there's going to be a different direction and different feeling around the team. So what are your thoughts on some of the roster moves? I don't mean necessarily even the big ones. Rasmus Dahlin is obviously going to improve this team, but you have, it appears Tage Thompson is going to make the team, as they sent Nylander down today. Don't know how much you were able to keep up on being in Green Bay. But,
yeah, I did see that.
But you have, guys like Berglund, guys like Sabotka, guys like Tage Thompson, just these other guys coming in. What are your thoughts on how that's going to affect this team?
I think I'm pretty optimistic. I think it's funny. I wrote about the Sabres in the spring, and I said, well, it looks like the Sabres have a path towards turning things around with young players coming up from Rochester and draft choices. And when you add Dahlin, who admittedly was a bit of good fortune him coming here, because the Sabres had a 20% chance of getting the number one draft choice. So he adds into the mix, and Middlestad is all signed in here. And you can see guys like those two, and maybe Linus Ullmark and so on down the road, young players who have a chance to get better. They've already got the best junior defenseman and the best junior forward from the tournament last Christmas that was in Buffalo. And I think there's a legitimate reason for hope. The question is, and the roster, I think, has improved in the sense that they traded O'Reilly for some assets, and then they gave up some future stuff without touching the roster to get Jeff Skinner. So I think you have to have more depth after you do that. Now, is trading your best all-around player in O'Reilly a great idea? Well, we'll have to see. But Skinner certainly will be given every chance to thrive with Eichel this year, and I think that'll be helpful. So it's going to be a better team, I think, no matter what, and I think the attitude will be better just for that reason. Now, is it going to be a playoff contender? I sort of doubt that. Is it going to be a team that will go in fits and starts? Probably, because that's the way the young players are going to improve. You're going to have bad nights and good nights, and we don't know how good they're going to be in a year, but hopefully a majority of them will be making progress as we go forward from this point. And then in a year we can say, all right, they're finally turning a corner, and where are the next areas of development? Can Jack Eichel become that $10 million player? And I hate to tie it to money. It's probably not fair all around, but can he be an elite player in this league? Is Skinner going to be a good fit? There's a lot of questions that we just don't know. Because how fast can Middlestat be ready? How fast can Dahlin get good? We just don't know right now, and that's going to be the most interesting part of the season.
I have one other question that I have. I had a bit of an emotional, I won't call it a breakdown today, but I told people to push me off the Bogosian bandwagon because I do think he's a nice player. I do think the team is noticeably better when he plays as a successful puck-moving right-shot defenseman who, especially last year on a team that just looked lost in their own end and lost with the defender with the puck on his tape, he's competent and he plays well and he's a top 5 pick and he shows it. But this guy is back on injured reserve and I just don't know. Like I am at a loss because I think that going forward, the success of this team, he plays a role. But good grief, is this guy ever going to be out on the ice? And as you said, you hate to tie money to it, but he's being very handsomely paid to not play.
And admittedly, last year was my first year seeing these guys regularly, and I barely saw him because he was hurt for most of the season.
I think he played 14 games or something.
Yeah, so it was really hard to get a measure on him. And some guys, I remember Brad May saying, "Well, I'm not injury prone, I'm just unlucky," and the answer to that is, well, maybe you are unlucky because you've gotten some injuries and you're more likely to get something happen again to you because you've been hurt in the past. And Brad wound up playing 16 years and winning a Stanley Cup out in Anaheim, so maybe he had the last laugh. But it's a tough physical game, and some guys just are going to get bounced around. But you're right, a guy like Bogosian, if he could play at a normal level, he takes up some minutes, and maybe some of the other guys like Risto don't have to play 28 minutes a game anymore. Maybe Scandella's minutes can come down, and maybe that makes Dahlin transition as a rookie a little bit simpler because there's more veterans to take over the majority of the playing time. But it would be nice to see him back, and we'll just have to see how that develops during the course of the year.
But I can't thank you enough for your time, taking some 20 minutes out of your quote-unquote vacation in Green Bay to talk with us. We appreciate it. Any questions for us?
How's the weather?
Cold and rainy today.
All right, same here.
Yeah.
You got more coming.
Yeah, sounds good. I was going to say whatever you have now, we'll see soon enough. Bud, we thank you for your time. I'm sure I'll see you soon enough, but have fun covering the Sabres this year. That's Bud Bailey of the Buffalo Sports page. Find him there on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle? It's I don't
WDX2BB.
That's what I said. WDX2BB. So we'll make sure that we tag you in on this podcast. Bud, thanks, and enjoy the rest of your trip. Safe travels home.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to Bud Bailey for hopping on the show there. Great interview, great insights. Well, he's down there at Lambeau Field. We'll let him
Up there. It's like north
down
of us.
there, up there. I'm just fucking talking. Jeff is, I thank God for Jeff because I would never be corrected on the show if Jeff wasn't here.
I just, sometimes I feel just the impulsive need to correct you without realizing that nobody would ever notice if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But
That's
unfortunately,
friendship, guys.
Yeah.
That's
it's kind of wired that way.
So we'll let Bud just segue us right into Sabres here.
Yeah, I like it.
Some fun stuff to talk about.
Happy opener week, gents.
Yeah, this might be the one week we're excited to watch hockey.
It's been like that. I'm hopeful that we have more time this year than the last couple of years. Last year, it literally felt like the opener was a punch square in the balls, and then you went back to regretting watching games again. But he mentions a lot of the turnover, and Steve, I know you talked to him about that in the interview. It feels like there's something here with this team, and we may not be to playoff level yet, but there's only one line, as the lines are stated skating here on a Monday, that is untouched from last season. And there's a lot of new infusions of talents, whether through the draft, through trades, that have come in here now and gives you something to look forward to here with the number 9 led Sabres.
It's one of those things where, the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. They're not doing the same thing. They had a very different offseason than they've had in the past. They are invested equally in veteran talent to, assist the young guys that they have and brought in. So this was not a matter of selling the farm to get one player like Ryan O'Reilly. This was the matter of selling parts to rebuild the farm. And they did that with just look at the St. Louis trade alone, and the jury's still out on how good of a trade that was, but it feels pretty good that they got 2 roster players, a prospect who has made the team, and draft picks, a first-round pick besides, to boot. That feels like the correct way to do this thing. It seems like Bots has really got something going.
I never actually thought of this until Eichel's Swedish Mafia, he said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe method to his madness of bringing in Berglund is a veteran Swede to come along with all the young Swedes on the roster.
And I mean, it's the way that the Detroit Red Wings did it in the 90s, just bringing all that European fast skating talent. Whether or not that's the reason that Berglund was thrown into the trade,
it's a good role model.
It certainly does. I would think it would help a guy like Dahlin, a guy like Asplund, and all those guys who are coming up, whether they're here or you figure they're going to be here sooner than later, to get accustomed to playing American hockey for their job now. And they could be dressing, as Steve just alluded to, 3 guys in the front 12, the 4 forward lines, who were acquired for Ryan O'Reilly. And it was a team that was desperately lacking depth last season. And Bud mentions that the jury's out on whether trading your best 2-way forward is ultimately going to pay off. But it was a guy who, I think everyone will agree at this point, didn't see a future for himself as a Buffalo Sabre. And you hope that you get guys here now, whether it's Thompson or Sobotka or someone sticks who wants to be a member of this team and can contribute going forward. And if one of them can't, maybe the 3 of them combine to contribute something.
So you guys all up to speed on the roster moves that have happened? Not sure, but we got some word of guys being sent down. We have just the big names. Nylander sent down. Hickey sent down. Not quite a big name there.
Gooley.
Baptiste, Gooley went down. Baptiste, Bailey, and Tennyson all clear waivers, but Tennyson is still up here.
And Baptiste got
meaning
traded.
For 30 days he can go down to the AHL without needing to clear waivers again. This is all shout out to my buddy Eric. We talk all the time about hockey trades and player moves and such. We talk all the time about it. But so now you had the Predators, who could have acquired Baptiste for nothing, trade Jack Doherty, who was a second-round pick in 2014, essentially an AHL defenseman. Based on some of the Preds fans on Twitter, they had a bit of a logjam on defense in their minor league system. But apparently, and I don't know if this is correct or not, by not claiming him off of waivers and trading for him, now Baptiste has 30 days of waiver ineligibility. That they can bring Baptiste in, play him up in the NHL for 2 weeks, send him down to the minors, and not have to have him clear waivers, because the waiver clear is good for 30 days. That could be wrong, but that would be the reason why Nashville would trade an asset for him instead of just claiming him off of waivers.
Gives them a little more flexibility. They might see if he can stick on their 3rd or 4th line for a little bit.
Because otherwise they claim him off waivers. They can bury him in the minors, but then if they bring him up, he has to clear waivers to go back down. But then again, you didn't give up an asset for him, so why would you care if he didn't clear waivers? I don't know. It doesn't...
I'm sure that there's a reason they gave up something instead of just taking him. I'm sure there's one reason or another, or something happened that they did it in this way, shape, or form. It's going to feel weird not just talking about we have an AHL system now that's filled with talent, and it's not just going to be like, all right, when they're going to call up Bailey and Baptiste. I feel like it's been Bailey and Baptiste is just the AHL for the last 5 years. It's just, all right, when are Bailey and Baptiste going to come up here? Just those 2 guys, and occasionally like one other guy for a moment. But we've always just think about the roster forwards in Rochester it's Bailey and Baptiste, and it's weird that one of them is gone, one of them is still just kind of floating around, and I still think that no one knows what's going to ultimately happen with Bailey. It could be the last season we see either of them in the Buffalo system at all.
Injured reserve, I believe that. I may not have everybody, but Matt Hunwick is on injured reserve, which is kind of nice because that prevents it from being a logjam on defense because they have so many defensemen. Scott Wilson out for quite some time. Surgery to repair, I believe, a broken ankle was the release today. So Scott Wilson will miss some time. Who else do we say? Johan Larsson appears to be on IR. And we cannot forget our buddy Zach Bogosian, who I talked to Bud about. And man,
you're telling me that Bogosian is hurt?
Throw me off the bandwagon.
Wow. Damn.
Because I'm on the Bogosian bandwagon. Throw me off. Face first, throw me off.
Well, if you get on the bandwagon, it's just going to break down and lose its tire right away.
I'm going to get thrown off when it hits the
General
pothole.
rule, when we talk about injuries now, let's just assume Bogo's on the report.
Somewhere.
He
Even
played.
if he's playing,
he
hurt.
played in the preseason game, and looked good. And if this is the same type of injury, why did he play? I don't know if it's the same injury.
And he almost never see anything even happen to him. Like, where did he get
It's
hurt?
false
I mean,
revenge story, just
Right.
standard stuff like that.
Like, he'll play the entire game. Next
Dude
day,
is just
day to
snake
day.
bit.
Shiri is day to day right now, and all signs point to him playing in Game 1 Thursday.
Do you know how people on IR affect the roster?
They do not take up a roster spot, so you're allowed 23 skaters, right? You're 18 forwards, 2 goaltenders, and 3 scratches.
Because right now there are 24 players. on the
Correct.
roster.
So if they are on IR, Scott Wilson, he does not take up a roster spot.
And Sean Malone is one of them. I didn't realize he made the team.
Yeah, he's gonna get that crack at that Johan Larsson spot at the bottom of the lineup to be that extra third or fourth center, and good for him. I thought he had a really good camp, and he deserves a shot at it here. It's almost surprising to me that out of all the guys who are on that second tier, if you will, not to undercut Malone's talent, but you don't think about him being an established pro at this point, that all the guys like him and Smith and the Baileys and Baptiste of the world, that Malone is the guy who impressed this coaching staff enough that he's going to be the one who gets the crack. And good for him. I thought he played well.
They also had to play it wise because certain guys would have to clear waivers and they might be afraid they'd get claimed. So as much as you don't want that to be the case, Nylander gets sent down because he doesn't have to clear waivers. That's an easy decision as far as when you're making the roster. Are you afraid if you send down, now, I don't know if Malone had to clear or not, but are you afraid if you send down X, Y, or Z instead of Nylander that they would get claimed, and you don't want to lose that player for nothing? It does become the game, especially on defense, where they have 8 to 9 NHL defensemen, and guys like, McCabe have to clear waivers, and Tennyson had to clear waivers, which he did, thank God. But he's still up here, apparently. He got waived, but not assigned to Rochester.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
So what do you guys think about Nylander getting sent down today? I thought he's the one guy that actually probably just earned the roster spot. I think he probably one of the most productive players during the preseason, and he got sent down a few hours ago today.
I think Thompson took his spot. I think that was 100% his spot, and Thompson just played so well.
Gergesons and Larson are still here. And this guy had a productive preseason, looked fast, had his moments where he did his Nylander thing, but I thought he earned a spot over those two.
I mean,
for sure.
I agree. I thought that Nylander deserved to be up here to start the season. I think at this point it might be asset management for them because they figured that Larson and Gergensen both have to clear. They figure they'll lose them. They can send Nylander down. I believe he wasn't subject to waivers going down.
Correct.
So they can send him down there. They can go into the season. They can see, especially if Larson starts, see what you have with Gergensen's, and then it gives them time to evaluate what they want to do because I think they were very close to just having Nylander here.
Does Nylander play top 6 up here, though?
No, I wrote my article earlier
because he's going to be first line winger down there.
I wrote my article this year about my prediction. I thought he had to make a top 6 spot, which maybe he didn't do that in the coach's eyes.
Yeah, maybe he made the team, but not in a top 6 role.
Yeah.
And maybe they feel that starting him as in a bottom 6 role isn't valuable to him.
I tweeted earlier. I'm like, to Alex Nylander, and I'm not a big fan of his by any, like, this isn't fanboying. I'm like, go down and play so well that they have to bring you up and they can't send you back down. That's what he has to do.
That's the old Bailey and Baptiste argument.
But the part of it for him that is different is he was drafted 8th overall with high expectations, so it's going to be almost harder for him. But you have to remember, Pominville was waived. Pominville cleared waivers before the lockout, and then in the lockout season they brought him back up, and that dude has never seen the minors since. And I'm not saying that will be Nylander, but it could be. It could be that Nylander gets sent down here, and if he already had a fire under his ass in the preseason at practice, like Coach Taylor saying he's a different guy, he's practicing differently, he's playing better, does this just stoke that fire even more to make him say, I'm done playing minor league hockey and I'm going to show you that I'm done?
I was excited to see him play this year, and so
you still might.
He'll probably be first. Guy
He'd probably be the
up
first guy up in the event of an injury, and if he does come up, does he play? Does Tage Thompson play himself down to a bottom 6 role, and Nylander plays top 6? I don't know.
So a lot of turnover this year. Roster is exciting on paper. It's exciting on paper. Remember that you got a lot of young guys on here. This season is going to be all about the secondary scoring. Can the secondary guys put points up? That's usually they've had the past few seasons. Eichel, Skinner, and Reinhardt are going to do their thing, and they're going to pull points. Yeah. I'd always rather like to see Erod on Reinhardt's wing. That'd be a super fast line, and Eichel and Skinner make a lot of room for him to be creative. But that's besides the point. Middlestat, very young.
Sherry and Oposo on either side.
Huh?
With Sherry and Oposo on either side. pretty good second line.
They have him playing.
Or they could have him playing third line with Berglund in the middle.
Didn't I have him playing wing? I saw on Twitter. I forget.
Berglund and Sabatka can both play center and wing. So,
but Berglund's the second line center, which he had 17 goals in 57 games last year, which is pretty good. 9 assists. He looked good at times this preseason. He played really well with Thompson and Nylander. I thought there was gonna be a line going into the season because they were phenomenal and fun to watch. But it's gonna be about Middlestat. Guys in Middlestat producing. Do you think they can pull it off this year? Think they can pull it off this year?
I mean there's
Okposo's healthy again.
So
he looks much better.
You mentioned it's about one thing. For me, this season is about 3 things.
What is it?
Secondary scoring is one of them. Do they finally have wingers who can skate and play at the speed of Jack Eichel? Can Jeff Skinner or Rodriguez or Reinhart for a full season play at the mental and physical speed of Jack Eichel? Because I think Eichel
Theoretically, yes.
never gets to show off what he can fully do because he makes this great move, looks for a pass, and everyone else is 2 steps behind him. And third, do we now, with the addition of guys like Rasmus Dahlin on the defense, finally have a defense that can both hopefully clear their own zone, but also facilitate for those forwards? Because I think a big part of secondary scoring will be trying to catch other teams in odd man rushes, and using the defense to spearhead that could really help the second and third line get something going.
Yeah, the roles, the roles of guys like Ristolainen, guys like Eichel can be reduced, and not in a bad way, not as a punishment, as a
necessity.
As a necessity, yeah, that they are going to be able to, you watch rushes on the power play, and, you have player X, Okposo, pick the puck up and give it to Jack. And, last year Jack was the only player to bring it through the neutral zone. Well, guess what? Jack drops it off to Dahlin and actually rushes because Dahlin is competent enough to either get it in deep or make a good pass to the blue line on time at the tape that Jack can be rushing toward the net. And just excited for that. Here's a bit of an indicator of how I'm feeling, and this could be me being a total homer. I'm going to the game Thursday with my friend Taylor, and I asked her, I said, how nervous are you about playing Boston on Thursday? Now, Boston's a good team. I mean, that top line, Bergeron's healthy. He's going to play. So you have Bergeron, the Rat, and Pasta playing. I'm not intimidated. I'm not saying they're going to beat Boston, but this isn't like, it doesn't feel like they're firing up the wood chipper, like the Bills rolling into Minnesota, even though they beat them. It doesn't feel like this is the Sabres running into a buzzsaw, because after the first line, Krejci's a little bit older, and you have Donato, and the second line, they're off. Their defensive pairings they lost McQuaid. They're a good team. Boston's a good team, but I'm not like, man, the Sabres are about to get whacked on Thursday. I don't have that fear. Maybe I'm being a fanboy, maybe I'm being biased, but I think the Sabres can match up with a team like Boston.
And not only that, you don't have the feeling that they're going to be like a 60-point team again this year like they have been the past few years. The turnover especially on the forwards, is very noticeable. I mean, it's not like the previous years where you're just kind of trying to okay, maybe we can put something in here. Maybe we can put something in here. You feel like you have more legitimate talent.
I think there's certainly a chance for this team to make a big impact here this year. And they could really be a team that catches a lot of people by surprise because they have on paper, they have a lot of team speed. And speed is a thing that can really break open games for you offensively. But it's going to come down to how well these new lines gel, how well everyone plays together. Can they stay healthy? Can Dahlin make an immediate impact? Which is, I know it's almost expected more out of a number one pick who makes a team versus a number one pick like a Nylander who doesn't make the team right away. But and an all new goaltending group.
Right.
So there's a lot going on here.
What teams in the East are locks for the playoffs?
Tampa, Washington, probably Boston,
Pittsburgh,
4, and
Toronto 5. That leaves 3 spots. What 3 teams are better than the Sabres in the East?
This
is where it gets interesting.
Yeah,
are we being fanboys? Detroit isn't. Ottawa isn't. Montreal isn't. Florida?
Florida's a contender. They have some talent there, but you never know. So the next tier, then it's the Florida Rangers, Philly.
Islanders are not going to be good this year.
Islanders probably aren't
Detroit,
that good.
Detroit I don't think is good at all. A couple good play, but it gets to the point where maybe we're
Columbus,
being stupid.
Probably.
You're being stupid, but it's like they can eke in. They can eke in. Especially because if you look at who's in their division, they don't have a lot of powerhouses in their division. Toronto, who they always play tough, and Tampa. After that, Detroit's in your division. Who else? The Ottawa, Montreal. Why can't they win? Why can't they get a spot in their division?
Ottawa might be the worst team that's ever played hockey at like any level.
Matt
ever.
Duchene still plays in Ottawa.
He sure does. I bet he's glad he forced his way out
I'm
of
glad he left
out of
Colorado. Those jerks, McKinnon, Renton, and Landeskog are nothing but
It's
a
like,
joke.
man, I want to go to a team that treats me with respect. He then shows up in Ottawa, who has their team captain demand trade because no one is treating him with any modicum of respect. Gotta be tough. That's why sometimes you're better off just sticking with the devil, you know.
Do the Devils make the playoffs again? I think so. That top line is legit, unless they have a falling off. Their goaltender is now Kincaid, or do they still have Schneider?
I think they still have
They
Schneider.
still have Schneider. That sounds right.
So looking at the playoff standings from last year that Justin pulled up here at the big screen that you can't see because this is an audio medium. You got Tampa number 1. I think Tampa's safely in.
Yes.
Washington wins the Cup. I think Washington's one of the best 8 teams in the conference. I think Boston is 2. Toronto, Pittsburgh. It's that next tier. Philly, Columbus, and New Jersey were the last 3 teams in the playoffs last year. And I wouldn't be shocked if 1 or 2 of those teams did not make the playoffs this year.
Here's my prediction. Columbus is out of a playoff spot and trades Buffalo Artemi Panarin for
I would
nothing.
love that.
And then Buffalo signs him, and boom.
Well, we got 14 first-round draft picks.
It's got to be worth something.
I literally said, why can't they package up their 2 latest?
I
Just
would
conditionally, the 2 last.
You know what you're getting.
Yep.
It's like
There's already talks that Panarin and Bobrovsky are on UFAs after this year, that they could both be looking for a way out, which they could both be looking.
Sabres won 25 games last year. It's going to take at least 40 to get in the playoffs. Do you think they can improve that much?
I think it's difficult to envision a 15-point jump. I think I can picture easily a 10-win jump, but the 10-win jump doesn't get you to where you need to be. So they're going to have to really hit it out of the park this year, and it's not impossible.
Yeah. New Jersey and Colorado did just that. You had one team in each conference do just that.
But you had a
last year.
Florida team last year that won 44 games and did not make the playoffs. So it's
but that was
nothing is
divisional
assured.
for them, wasn't it? Didn't they get? No, not necessarily.
No, they were just out.
Boston, Tampa,
a lot of
Toronto.
regulation losses versus
Yeah.
New Jersey, who beat them out by a point.
Yep.
And it's tough out there. And
If only the
think there's-
playoffs were 10 teams, they'd be in.
if
And I'm not lobbying
if
for that.
30 teams made the playoffs, the Sabres would be in
Shut
100%.
up, Jeff. I'm not saying that. Gosh. I'm just saying there are teams now that I would bet the house are worse than Buffalo in the standings on paper and in games.
Ottawa's
Ottawa,
pretty bad.
Detroit, Montreal, the Islanders without JT. I think that Anders Lee and Josh Bailey are going to tank. Barzal's great, but he's not John
We saw
Tavares.
with the last couple of guys who left after playing with JT. Molson was
Oposo hasn't been the same since. I mean,
I'm still holding out hope.
Me
for
too,
Oposo.
but
Also had a serious brain.
I
failure.
agree.
Did you read
I
that
get
thing
it.
in The Athletic about
No,
him?
because I'm cheap and don't pay for it.
Do
you have it?
I free trialed that. I was curious.
Well, send me some screenshots.
Go back. It's fine.
Carolina is
It's a
not
great
better than
piece.
Buffalo. They traded their best goal scorer. Where did they trade him again?
Rumor is they traded him here.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot that for a second. Florida has a legitimate top 2 lines. They have Barkov, Bukestad, and who else is on their top line?
Jonathan Huberdeau.
Huberdeau's their second line with Trocheck and who is the Panthers' first line?
They have that guy.
Why am I being stupid?
Well, they traded Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault, so that's working out well for them. They encouraged Las Vegas to take those players.
And they also have solid goaltending in Luongo, and they have Aaron Ekblad.
So I think it's the Rangers, Buffalo, and Florida competing with Philly, Columbus, and New Jersey somewhere in those last 3 spots.
I've been off the Twitter grid all day, most of the weekend actually. Goaltending is an interesting spot for me for the Sabres. Did they name a starter? Is it Hutton? Is it Allmark?
I don't think it's official.
It'll
I think
be
it's going to
Hutton.
be Hutton.
It's Bukestad, Barkov, and Dadonov. And then Trocheck, Vetrano, Huberdeau, or Malgin, or McGinn. You can kind of swap them in there. But, yeah, they have 2 solid lines.
We hope that Buffalo has that level of offensive line respect
Correct.
after this season. Full season of Jack playing with Skinner and Sam, who, we saw clearly at the end of last season how well that Jack and Sam play together.
It's a real shame that Sam missed a beat. All that training camp time he missed, shows up to that preseason game and only gets 2 points. And
He's going to be a huge part of the
he
season.
looks so good.
He's ready.
He needs to play a full 82 this year.
It's now or never time for Sam to prove that he deserves to be a top 6 guy.
He looks motivated.
They got a team-friendly deal for him. They really did. They're not overpaying him.
deal.
2 years, right?
No,
Great
when
deal.
he starts playing really well, and then we got to resign him to a very monster contract, everyone's gonna start shitting on Botterill. No, we should sign him long term when he could have. But
the cap
I like
keeps
this,
going up.
I like this deal. And you're right. The cap keeps going up. I think the cap floor now was what the max was out of the
lockout.
lockout. But this team needs to name a fucking captain. Like, how do you want to be a
They don't
hockey
need to
team?
name a captain. They need to name Jack captain.
Yes, but like, you want to establish an identity as a hockey team, and you can't even name a captain yourself. Like,
It just proves that there's no identity in the locker room.
Exactly.
It's like Bud mentioned about that team just being a walking corpse for 40 games last season because like there was no personality. Everyone just walked in there like they were facing a firing squad instead of guys holding microphones. It's just got to get a guy who's the leader of the team. And we all know it's Jack. The players will tell you it's Jack. Just give him the C.
You want to go all the A's. When you're a young guy, you got to look to all these dudes. You want a voice. You want a guy. You want to lead your charge. And it's got to be Jack. It's a perfect time to do it. Got the nice new long deal. Just give it to him. But then they're afraid they're going to piss off Kyle Poso. Like, Jack's the guy. And you can see it all beginning of this offseason. He's been talking like it. Mm-hmm. He's been walking the walk. Been talking the talk, like I just said. But it just, I think Chris Osterman said it earlier today. Like, they got a good opportunity just to do it during the introductions of this week's game.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
That better be what they're waiting for.
Show it in the intro video and then announce it on the ice.
How long until fans get pissed off about not having C in their New Jersey?
Go to Sorrentino's for $10
minutes.
and put it on.
Say it was reimbursed $9 of each one.
I wear my Team North America orange and black.
The best jersey.
Sick. My
best
jersey. I don't even care that it's 15.
It doesn't even outdate itself because, it's number 9 now, but that's...
It doesn't matter. He only will ever have worn 15 because he'd never be on Team North America
the white
again.
one or the black one?
Black one.
White one is the way to go, man.
I like the black
ones are dope too, though.
Yeah. Anyways, I wear that jersey, and I get a mixed review of, like, 5 people are brave enough to say, that's really sweet, and I overhear 5 people saying, what jersey is that? Because they didn't watch the World Cup of Hockey at all, but it's always, you turn heads with it. It's sick.
Unpopular opinion, I love the turd burger.
That is an unpopular opinion. You are correct.
They look like shit on TV, but I thought I think they're cool up close in person. I think they're...
What am I missing? What?
The black and yellow, the blue and yellow one.
The slug.
Oh, the slug?
The buffalo slug.
The turd burgers, the
yellow in front, the blue in
the
back.
yellow ones. Yeah.
Did I miss something? What did I miss?
Jersey takes.
Yeah. What did I miss about
that old?
You remember the yellow jersey? The yellow jersey.
Oh
front,
gosh,
the blue
so
in the
they were practice jerseys. Those were disgusting.
I thought they were cool in person.
Those were disgusting.
They don't look good on TV. They don't translate well. They do not translate well.
They didn't look good in person either.
They looked like a practice jersey.
I had a friend who bought one, and then like a month later, the Sabres store emailed him asking if he wanted to buy another one because they couldn't get rid of them.
They are like $45 at Wegmans.
They don't have a third jersey this year, do they?
No, they're one
With
of
all
the
these
few teams that
sick,
doesn't.
The Jets going back, the Ducks having the sweet third jerseys.
The Coyotes going back.
Did we see the Sharks third jerseys?
Yep.
They are nice. The black with the teal, super sweet.
The ultimate jersey this year is the Coyotes going back to that old school one.
Yeah.
That is a
Is it fair or
Dogs.
foul for the Hurricanes to be wearing Whalers jerseys?
Foul.
I think so too.
Why? It's part of their...
But it's not.
It's okay if the Clippers wear Braves jerseys. Those are pretty cool jerseys. No one gets...
I think the difference is that no one in Buffalo is clamoring to get their team back.
Correct.
Right.
I don't know.
That's true. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Like I feel like if Colorado wore Nordique's jerseys, all the could be like upset, and that'd be a
Quebec
jersey
would be
foul.
like,
It's the same
screw you.
reason that I think like Hartford has a right to be upset that Carolina's wearing Whalers jerseys.
I
They
would-
are sweet jerseys.
Yeah, they are sick. But I'm ready. I'm ready for what this year brings. I'm ready for Thursday.
Sabres bowl predictions. Anyone got one?
Jack Eichel gets 100 points.
Ooh,
Oh,
I
Hundy?
like it.
This is your opportunity to say something dumb. It's a bold prediction.
Darlene wins the Calder.
That's not bold.
I think it is for a defenseman.
He's got to beat Svechnikov getting a bunch of points.
Yeah.
Carolina's a dumpster fire.
I think it's tough for a defenseman to win Rookie of the Year. I'll go bolder. Phil Housley wins Coach of the Year. That's sick.
I like that.
The Sabres defense looks good. They make the playoffs, make a run, and Housley wins.
30-point turnaround.
Still not enough to make the playoffs, but hey, we
Nope.
take it.
I'd see them probably, like you were saying, 9th, 10th, but 30-point turnaround, give us at least something to look forward to.
Yep. Just looking competent on the ice instead of looking like you're not supposed to be out there. I don't know. What's yours, Justin?
Skinner puts up 45 goals.
Well, that goes really well. That goes really well with my take.
Yeah, I would. Those probably both could come true in the same swoop.
I like it.
Play with Eichel. I like his odds.
Oh, that's better than anybody he played with in Carolina by a mile.
Jack Eichel statistically improves his winger's shooting percentage.
Oh,
The Sabres win a shootout this year.
yeah.
A Sabres goaltender stops
Makes
a
a
puck.
save. Shootout.
Doesn't get Kucherov with a deke, a feint that doesn't even touch the puck and 5 holes you.
That's a filthy move, though.
That was so good. He did it more than once, and he scored on it more than once. So
I can't tell you how many people tried that on me when I played goalie, and they would probably score on me if I wasn't terrible and just like.
See, Justin doesn't bite on the first move because he can't get across, so he's actually perfectly guarding the Kucherov. Someone's going to try the Forsberg and get jammed.
Yeah, pretty much is how it works. Like I did a move, so I'm there. Happens to be all the time when I play out forward. Like I make a sick move, and the goalie saves it because he didn't bite because he's not good enough to move on the first.
It's like I feel like the lower level you play of beer league, the less moves you make, the better. Just roof the puck. Just try to put it under because these guys try to stick themselves to a phone booth and then they fall over or they just play it back into the goalie who actually never moved.
yeah,
Any other Sabres talk you guys want to touch on?
fired up.
I'm excited.
I'm ready to come back here next week and talk about the first game.
There's so many Friday nights that I wish there was a hockey game on.
Yeah.
Like, just wish that I could sit down and watch
Remember
the game.
last year they came out against the Canadians and they looked like, wow, they look fast. This is gonna be a fun season. Then he just sucked ass for the next 6 weeks.
They lied to us.
Like Boylo looked like boy. I don't still don't say his fucking name. Boylo.
Bullshit, because that's who he is.
He looked
He's
good
so
that game. He
Bad.
was flying back and forth, and all of a sudden he's just a fucking tire fire.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm letting all the swear words out these
He's
last 5
bad.
minutes.
No one's
He's
listening
bad.
anymore. We can swear it now.
Yeah. He's bad.
So that's part of the team I worry about is most of the defense, most of the names on defense are still the same as they have been the last year or two. That's
Except you injected
right.
Darlene. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge, but at least it's something. But I don't know. I think I'm just having this feeling that there's going to be a move or two made on defense. I don't know in what way I think there's going to be a move or two made on defense this season.
I was gonna say something. Oh, let's kick it back a bit. We're gonna wrap this up, but I'm gonna put you in a spotlight here, Mike. Do you have any hot food takes you want to get off your chest right now?
No.
Good. Thanks for your input.
No, because I'm on this kick that all food sucks right now.
That's a hot food take.
That is a hot food take.
That's a fucking
The
hot
the hottest food take is that literally every piece of food is garbage.
Pretty much.
You actually impressed me with that hot food take. Can you elaborate on this? I actually am kind of intrigued now.
No, it's just that I had to go to the doctor's a few weeks ago and just got to get my weight and blood sugar down, and just basically food sucks.
Anybody ever go to Canada and eat some Canadian candy?
Yes,
Yeah.
not explicitly for that reason, but like I've had like a coffee crisp and an arrow
Yeah,
bar and
Arrow
stuff
Bar
like
is
that.
so good.
I want to touch on coffee crisps. Had some.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
Why aren't they in America?
You can get them at Dash's, 100%.
Are you kidding me?
Dead serious.
Like the one I call
Yep.
Yeah, right here.
100%.
Yeah,
Arrow
isn't it
Bars
just
and
like
Coffee
you-
Crisp.
Como what?
Isn't it just like you just go in and you go to the left there and it's like right there,
Yep.
isn't it?
Yeah, they're not as buried as they used to be. We're lucky being basically in Canada that we
Yeah.
can get them here.
My hot food take. Smarties are better than M&Ms.
Canadian
Get
Smarties
garbage-
or
get
American
this
Smarties.
garbage
Canadian
out of here.
Smarties.
That's possible.
Trash.
I still love M&Ms, but at least
Chocolate
I can
is too good.
respect that because Canadian Smarties are way better than what we consider in the States to be Smarties.
Chocolate's too good.
They're shaped like Sprees, filled with chocolate. Tastes better than
They're
M&Ms.
filled with chocolate?
Damn.
Yeah, it's an entirely different candy
You
than
never
Smarties
had
here.
the Canadian Smarties?
No.
Oh, I'm gonna get some. Wait,
It's a whole different thing.
stall. He's gonna try them on air.
Oh,
Yeah.
do we
You
actually,
have 'em?
We have some
I have
here.
some.
Oh, perfect.
Damn.
This is great.
This is an unexpected treat for Steve. We thought he was just coming here to record a podcast tonight,
Yeah.
but is actually coming here to have his taste buds exploded by Canadian candy.
Canadian
While
This is awesome.
While we have this interlude, as Justin walks out of the podcast room and goes over to where the Smarties are,
Recording studio.
recording studio. That's right. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, all the favorite ways you listen to podcasts. We are on Facebook, 716 Sports Podcast, on Twitter at 716 Sport Podcast. We are on probably any social media you have or haven't heard of. We actually do have an Instagram that we never use, and you can find us on there.
This isn't looking good, guys.
Justin's still scrambling.
Oh,
Oh, he does have
he
something.
has something
Here
in
we
his
go.
hands.
Is this what we were looking for? Do you have the Smarties?
I have bad news.
They are all gone.
My wife
Good job. I'm proud of you.
ate the last of the Smarties.
Well, that is unfortunate.
But I do have some. Anyone interested in some butter tarts?
The
What are we
hell
doing
those?
here?
What are those?
They're tarts made with butter.
Anyone want to try one?
Yeah.
Canadian.
Let's
do it.
What are you giving me the pressure of opening these for?
Give one to Mike.
We're gonna all eat them at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
we want to hear you ruffle them into your microphone.
Mike, are you interested in one of these?
No, that's all right.
Okay.
It won't open.
How many games do the Sabres have before we're back recording? 2?
They're huge. This is the biggest thing I've ever eaten in my life. Okay, he said you want to
That's
try
what
a
she
butter
said.
tart. There are 2 of them. The package is bigger than my hand.
They look like those little pinwheels.
Yeah. Am I doing this thing?
Go for it, man. This was supposed to be a Smarties segment, but now it's a butter tart segment.
I never even heard of a butter tart in my life.
I also have Mirage bars, which is kind of like the Era bars.
Okay, going in.
Let's bring it back to the OG days when we had Mike Eat Mighty Taco on air.
What do you think, man?
It's delicious.
Is it?
100%.
It looked disgusting.
No. It tastes like the pecan pie without pecans in it, like that filling. It's legit.
Good. I'm sorry we're gonna get you Smarties.
Future Pod.
Actually, Justin's going to go 2 dashes after this just to get Coffee Crisp.
I think they're closed now.
He's going to camp out outside.
But that's that. All right.
Cool.
That's that for our Canadian candy segment.
Yeah. I actually did the whole spiel about where you can find us on the internet while you were getting those butter tarts.
Cool.
So we're just done.
Check out Pat Moran's podcast, Moranalytics.
Check Bud Bailey's tweets as he gets ready to cover the Sabres for another season. I forgot his Twitter handle because it doesn't make any sense, but he mentions it at some point during the interview. So rewind to that point.
That's like a true 1999 AIM
Yeah.
instant messenger name.
You can find
It's
us
a
on
legit handle.
AMXX 716 Sports Podcast _420 XX.
See, my Xbox gamer tag is kind of like that. It's really stupid.
Who wants the other butter tart? I promise you it's good.
I don't want it.
I promise.
Mike,
I'm
try
not
it?
eating both. I promise you it's good. I'm not. This is not some sabotage effort to make you suffer.
Yeah, considering you just cleaned up the other one, I believe you, but I'm okay.
Jeff,
What are you trying to say, Jeff?
Okay. No, it's like if you were trying to sabotage us, you wouldn't have eaten the other one unless you were that committed to the bit.
Or would I?
I would respect that if that was just your way. Let me just eat this thing I hate so I can get someone else to try one.
Mm-hmm. We've
Next-
eaten African food together though.
That's true. We did
Romantic. Except it wasn't. It was in the bleachers at All High Stadium.
Do
But
that. There's not a more romantic place in Buffalo than the bleachers at All High Stadium in midfield.
But you've had Coffee Crisps.
yeah,
Honestly, number one on my candy bar list.
no.
Can-
Not even
so
the trash.
new evergreen podcast for next off season. We just talk about Canadian food and we eat a bunch of it.
We could do this. Some donaires.
Yeah.
Swiss
some-
chalet sauce. I
get
buy
some-
Swiss chalet sauce
Let's
at
get some real poutine.
a local store and then get a rotisserie chicken from
Mhm.
Tops.
For the first All Sabres show, we'll just do all Canadian food. We'll just
Yes, I'm in.
embrace the
I'm
hockey.
in.
It'll be a vlog.
I mean,
Just watch the four of us eat
Find
and
us
talk
on
about hockey.
twitch.tv.
we were
That's
wrapping
a
up
thing
20
we're
minutes ago.
Yeah, we're terrible at wrapping up this podcast. Terrible.
We're really dragging this thing on. I love it.
Sure are.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, but
Bye.